What's going on, everyone? I just got out of the theater from checking out the new rom-com film called Materialists. This is the new A24 film that was directed by Celine Song. She has the past hit movie Past Lives, which I really did love that movie. That's like a 5 out of 5 movie. I've watched that movie a couple times and I can really relate to that movie. So I was very excited to check out this film. This film stars Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans. And it's about this young New York matchmaker played by Dakota Johnson, in which she's trying to find her own perfect match, but she's also torn because she wants a rich man, but at the same time, she has her ex, Chris Evans, who's still around, who really isn't a rich man and completely opposite of what she's looking for. Now, in this movie, I'll say from a positive standpoint, I think the messaging here is done very well as far as what the director is trying to say in this movie. This movie is a particular movie in which Dakota Johnson's character, she has all these different clients who want to find the love of their life. They have all this criteria. It's basically like a build a bitch, build a bro type of situation. There are a lot of people out there that have a lot of check boxes for what they really want in a person. And while I agree in some aspect, I think some of the matchmaking aspect of this film, some of the things that the people are looking for in this film, they are very extensive and they're very much just a little bit too much. So from that perspective, I think the director here is trying to say that, you know, we have all these different criteria that we're looking for in a partner, and sometimes like the simplest of things is what we really have right in front of us. So I think from that point of view, I think that the messaging is pretty good. From a mixed point of view, to me, there is several stories that are going down in this movie. For instance, you have Dakota Johnson, who meets Pedro Pascal, which they are in a particular relationship in this film. And it isn't necessarily like a big chemistry type of relationship. With that whole relationship, there's a part in the film where it takes like a gradual tonal shift, which I wasn't like a big fan of in this film. Then you have Chris Evans in this film, who I would say he's kind of a main character, but he's not like a lot in the film. Mainly so in like the third act, I think he's mainly in the film the most. You're basically having Dakota Johnson, she's working for this company and she's very good at what she does. She's had 9 different couples that she's matched into actually having a wedding and actually marrying the love of their life. So I like that kind of aspect with Dakota Johnson's character. But the problem with Dakota Johnson's character is her character isn't like the most rootable character. Her character and her acting in general, to me, is always just kind of the same kind of range. And I don't think she really does anything here that's anything different that you haven't seen her in any other film. And I think from that perspective, she's a very weak main attraction here. I'm not saying she's not like a good-looking girl, because I think she is a good-looking woman. But I think from a perspective of her acting here, I don't really think there's any range to really make you feel like, oh, this is a great performance. And really, from everybody in this film, I don't think anybody is doing anything like really spectacular where you're like, oh man, like they definitely need to give an Oscar to Chris Evans in this film or Pedro Pascal. I think for what they're given, they do just enough to kind of make the script go along. But I think from this script compared to Past Lives, I think it's severely lacking, because there's a certain problem that happens in this film with Dakota Johnson's client. Something happens with the client. And with that client, there really isn't any justification as to where that story really goes. We get introduced a certain problem with that client, and then we just kind of never really wrap that portion up. Pedro Pascal as well, his story in here and what is really going on with him, we don't get a lot of depth with his character as well. And I think that's kind of the biggest problem with this film, is there's a lot of lack of depth within these characters, versus Past Lives, there's a lot more depth with just the 2 main characters that really make that film feel very special. And I think that's what's really lacking in this film to really love this film, because for me, I think the messaging is very strong in this film. And if you've ever watched a film where you feel like the messaging is really strong, but you don't feel like the execution of the movie is all that great, that's where I feel like this film really fails. So for me, when it comes down to it, I feel like this story needed a lot more fleshing out. It feels like when we get into the third act, we're kind of exploring territory on love as to the simplest terms. Like, you kind of know like what these characters are going to do. But the other thing with this film too is it's labeled as a rom-com. There is no comedy in this film at all. It's a very straightforward romance, has a little bit of drama in there as well, sprinkled in. But at the same time, like, it just really lacks any kind of laughs. Like, if you're looking for like a really funny time at the theater, this is not that kind of movie. But I think when you come out of this movie, I do feel like you do make yourself think a little bit like, am I being too harsh on what I'm looking for if you're single? Am I being too harsh what I'm looking for in a partner? So I think on that aspect, it definitely makes you think. We never really get into any of those characters that Dakota Johnson is actually talking to within this film. We meet a few different people, they talk about their criteria, but they don't dive into any of those characters. So it feels like everything here is very simplistic. There's not a lot of style to it. I do think from the cinematography aspect, it's pretty good. The music in here, it's not always there. I think there's like little bits and pieces where there's like soft music and, you know, it can kind of stand out in certain scenes, but nothing really to write home about within the music department. So when it really comes down to it with this film with me, I would say it's just kind of an average film. I would give it a 2.5 out of 5. I didn't hate my time with this film, but I don't really think it's all that great either. I think it has like a 3.6 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which to me is just a little bit stretching a little bit too much with what the film actually is giving you on screen. And again, I don't think the characters are great here. I think they're very simplistic in how they are actually written. So those are my thoughts on Materialists. Let me know down in the comments, what did you guys think about this film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.